Unleashed is brought to you by Scott Diamond, your State Farm Insurance Agent, Pizza Villa in DeKalb, Elder Care Services of DeKalb County, The Junction Eating Place in DeKalb, and my insurance guy Mike DeVito in Sycamore. Well, good morning and welcome to Teeny Ryan Unleashed podcast number 13, as we have the honor and privilege of talking to Denny Miller, longtime coroner for DeKalb County, now town supervisor over there in Sandwich. Denny, first of all, thank you for all you've done through these years. We are truly grateful for that, because also you were in charge of the disasters as well. We'll ask you about that, but thank you, sir.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And tell us about that, doing something for 40 years. You know, I was going to joke about you now being a township supervisor in Sandwich. I was going to joke that you can't keep a good man down. And I was thinking you must get so tired of coroner jokes through the years. Or how have you dealt with that through the years, Denny?
I've heard probably most of them that are out there, but I just laugh along with it. I just, what do you do? That's fine.
That's great. So now tell us about that. At the ceremony, you said, I couldn't have been here all these years without my family, my wife and kids. They mean a lot to me. That's why I did it. Tell us about your family and why you were able to do this job, such a difficult job for 40 years.
Yes, it was, G.D. I married my friend I've known for 100 plus years now. That's just kidding. Several years. We grew up together. We both were born and raised in Sandwich. I've known her family for years and years, and my family knew her family for years. So we just got together and we got married in 1982. And out of that marriage, we have three wonderful children. Jordan and his wife Sarah live in Oswego. Brandon and his wife Ashley live in Salmonac. And our daughter Brianna and her husband Derek live in Sandwich. We have three fantastic grandchildren, 2 boys and a girl. They keep us busy. That's fine. So that's how.
I read a stat where over 70% of Americans live within 100 miles of where they were born. Now, where were you born, Denny?
I was born in Aurora.
Okay, so you're right there.
Right there. My mother was a nurse at that time Sandwich Hospital, and my dad was a carpenter. He grew up on a farm, hard-working man, and he did well for himself and his family.
Now, nature versus nurture. I always want to know. You said your mom was a nurse. Did that get you interested in the medical field?
I think it did. Like I said, she was retired when I was born, but she always talked about it. She enjoyed working with people and trying to find a cure for them. I was on a volunteer ambulance crew down Sandwich for a number of years. And I was a paramedic, not paramedic, but an EMT for Sandwich Ambulance for 20 years. And then I became interested in the coroner's office. At that time, Mr. Bill Sullivan was the coroner back in the late 70s, early 80s, and he became a deputy coroner. Worked up through the ranks with that. Mr. Sullivan resigned in January of '84 to move on to Syracuse, New York, to the MD's office out there. And then they had to appoint a person to take his spot. Bill Sullivan was a Democrat, so I said, sure, I'll be a Democrat. Young and dumb at that time, but I ran in every election since then. About 30 some years ago, I switched parties to Republican. And I've not had a problem whatsoever with both parties.
Now, in 1979, I am going back to Oakton Community College because I had a 1.7 grade point average when I graduated. I didn't intend to go to college. But you began your career as a DeKalb County coroner. Tell us about that first day on the job. What was that like for you?
As coroner, it was really pretty interesting. Not bad. I was the deputy for 5 years prior to becoming the coroner. So I kind of knew what's going on and things of that nature. After the '84 election, at that time, it's back in November of '84, I was sworn in December 1st, I believe it was. And before I went home that evening, I got a phone call from the then State's Attorney Jordan Gallagher. He said, Denny, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm getting ready to go home. He said, no, you're not. And the law reads, whenever the sheriff resigns or dies in office, the coroner takes over. So I said, Jordan, you're kidding me. I said, no, I'm not. So
you were sheriff. There's a new sheriff in town.
Well, I assumed the position of sheriff, yes. So at the time, I surrounded myself with some very close friends. Former Sheriff Roger Scott, who I miss dearly. Another good friend is Kevin Hickey, who used to work for the sheriff's office. And we ran the office. with honesty and dignity, and didn't take any guff from anybody. That's how it happened. The county board could not make a decision for like 4 or 5 months. So back then I was pretty brassy. I said I had a press conference, as a matter of fact, and I made the comment that it appears the county board cannot make a decision, so we are set to go on until the next election, which would be '86. The next day or the next month, a new sheriff was appointed. At that time, it was Sheriff Roger Scott. He was a patrolman for the sheriff's office, and Roger did a fantastic job. He's very honest,
Tremendous person.
yes, he was. He's top dog in my estimation. So then, ever since, Roger was sheriff and I was coroner, and we worked very, very well together. We respected each one's opinion, and we always didn't agree on a topic, but we left work shaking hands and still being friends.
That's great. Now tell us about that first campaign, because I was just talking to somebody. They said, why the coroner? Why do they run for that office? Why is it an elected position? And in fact, the Republican and Democrat, would they make a difference in that? Well, why? And then tell us about that first campaign. Did you want? It seemed to me you'd be a reluctant candidate.
It was interesting. I had a person run against me who was a former funeral director in Sycamore, but he had to drop out of the race because of issues. So then, and they found another individual who was a very fine individual, Mr. Richard Pearson, and he ran, and I ran, and I won, and he didn't. So,
did you have a campaign slogan? What was your gist of your campaign?
No, I just met people. I was honest with people. I'd stop and talk to anybody on the street, and that's how it happened.
How are you in public? People say they're more afraid of death than or more afraid of public speaking than death. But
well,
how about you?
I hope I've gotten better over the years with public speaking, but sometimes if people say no, But anyway, I just shoot from the hip, I guess it was.
And then the campaigns that followed, was there really any running involved? They just kind of put your name out there?
I had the next 3 elections in a row. I had a nurse who used to be at Kishwaukee Hospital, a very fine individual. She ran against me 3 times. I beat her, of course, all 3 times. And she no longer is, I believe she now is retired.
Okay. Now, the people forget that in addition to being the DeKalb County coroner for over 40 years, in 1990, you became the head of the Emergency Service Disaster Agency, or the ESDA. Tell us about how that happened there, Denny, and how were you able to take on more responsibility at that time?
No. At that time, the ESDA coordinator was a quarter-time position, and he made the comment publicly that he could not do it quarter-time, either half-time or full-time. I'm sorry, either quarter-time or full-time. He really wanted a full-time position there. At that time, the county board chairman, the individual who was the ESDA director, I think kind of upset the county board chairman. At that time, Mr. Don Lundin was the county board chairman. He came to me one time and said, "Denny, would you be interested in doing this?" I said, "Well, I'll give it a try. I'll give it a try for a couple of days." And here I am, 30-some years later. I give it up. So it worked out fine. The federal government is trying to make the ESDA or EMA position full-time. Does it need to be full-time? Smaller counties, I'd say no.
Okay.
Absolutely not. Larger counties, sure, but like the federal government likes to push things downhill to the state, and the state pushes it down to the locals. And who's the locals? You and me.
Yeah.
Our boots are on the ground. So that's how it is.
So your opinion, it's not necessary to be a full-time position per se?
I really, in a county this size, probably not. This duplication of services, the fire departments do a fantastic job. The law enforcement agencies do a wonderful job. Hospitals do the same thing. Coordination of all the players is important, and that can be done probably on a part-time basis.
We're talking with Denny Miller, longtime coroner for DeKalb County, and also in charge of the emergency. What's it called exactly? The emergency
Emergency Services and Disaster Agency.
And unfortunately, in 2008, a mass shooting at NIU where 5 students were killed, the dozens injured. Now, again, you're wearing two hats, aren't you, in this case, Denny? Because, again, it's an emergency, obviously, and then also you're the coroner as well.
Correct. It was very stressful, I should to say the least, but we worked through it.
We talked to Darren Mitchell, who was a former NIU police chief who was on campus that day, and he talked about the brave men and women running towards the shooting as opposed to the kids who were running away. And then, when did you get on campus, sir? Did you go on campus then, or what?
I was on campus right away. As a matter of fact, the scene was secured. The NIU and DeKalb City, DeKalb County, and other local law enforcement agencies secured the scene and did their thing. And we photographed everything. The FBI was there, and they had to process the scene properly and thoroughly. So we couldn't really move bodies yet until that scene was properly documented. Thank goodness, Kishwaukee Hospital just opened up the new facility, which is now 25 years old or whatever it is. And that was
triage, right?
For triage and also for family members. I had a lot of family members. The hospital is calling me all the time. When are you going to get here? When are you going to get here? Yes, stuff like that. So we made the removals of the deceased to the hospital. And at that time, you can imagine it in a big lecture hall. Somebody starts shooting, and you don't take your purse or billfold or whatever with you.
Right.
So I had 6 people with no identification on them whatsoever, no billfolds or purses or whatever. So I X-rayed up. I met with each family individually. I said, "Tell me about your loved one. What do they color are, or what color hair, what color eyes, any tattoos, any piercings, etc." And that's how we identified the bodies at that time.
Wow.
My policy was never allow anybody to see a homicide victim for a lot of reasons.
No, not just family members. You mean anybody?
And family members especially.
Right.
So I kind of broke my rules at that time because I had to, and I positioned each body in different rooms, and I thought I had the right individual with the right family. So I told them, "I will take you into this room. You tell me if this is your son or daughter, and don't touch them. You can hold their hand, but you can't do anything else with them." And that's how they were identified.
Wow.
That was a tough night.
Oh my gosh. What was that like at the end of that night, or probably the day or the 24-hour period for you?
Well, I don't know what time I even got home. I think I got home about 4 or 5 in the morning. I just jumped in the shower, changed clothes, and came back up here. There was a press release, and I didn't want to go there, but Roger Scott says, "You gotta be there, Danny. You gotta be there." So sure, I'll be there. So, of course, all the news media from around the country was there,
right?
And they were asking me questions about the causes of death and things of that nature. So I finally told them, as soon as this press conference is over with, we will have those answers later on today with the preliminary cause of death. So that's what we did. We canceled we stopped the press conference and we went to work.
I can't imagine a more intimate thing to do than to work with the family members the way you did. Do you follow up? Do they follow up with you? Have you followed up with any of the, for instance, in a situation like that?
This situation, no. I have people come up to me today and thank me for what I did for their loved one years ago. I probably forgot who they even were, but once they mentioned a few things, it came back to me, and that makes me feel good.
We recently interviewed the recent mayor of Cortland, Mark Petrowski, and also Bill Nicholas, city manager in DeKalb, and both times the subject of the E4 tornado, EF4 tornado, came up there in Fairdale. And I know you were involved with that as well. Tell us about that when you were involved with that, Denny.
That was another sleepless couple nights. We got up there, and on the way up there, I called ComEd, the utility company, to have them cut all the power off to the village of Fairdale for obvious reasons. I then ordered porta potties because I knew it was going to be a long month or so. So we got up there, and of course, debris all over the place. I met with the sheriff up there and fire department, etc. There's 2 people who were missing that were found the next day. and they were removed from the rubble.
And was the same deal where, again, you had to talk to the family? I mean, or you knew?
Yeah. Well, we knew who they were at that point. This was a small village and stuff, but we knew where they were. They're in their correct houses, etc. And that was difficult. I had to work again with state IEMA. They came up and helped a lot. A lot of the fire departments came in and helped with the cleanup.
Bill Nicholas talked about cutting through a lot of red tape. Was that a frustration for you? A lot of the with all the different agencies involved.
Yeah, well, anytime you get, I shouldn't say government involved, especially state government, you have to jump through all the hoops. You can't do that all the time. You have to, you have to use common sense, number one. And that's what I think a lot of people are missing is common sense in what's going on now in today's world. But that's a different story. And we can get things done with people that we know. We did maybe put it up for bids because the lowest bid will get the contract or whatever. But sometimes you can't wait that long. Mm-hmm. You have to do it like today. What do you do with all this rubble or all this rubbish? I'm not gonna sit there and play twirling my thumb thinking about it. I'm gonna get it done. That's what we did. We got it in there. We got trucks in there from throughout the county, state. You got the Wi-Fi hooked up. I mean, it's amazing what you were able to do in such a short period of time. It just takes time. You have to know people. My phone book, what I always carried with me, had a lot of private numbers in it, and I called those people. And they knew when I called that number, it wasn't to sit and talk. So we had the things done. Wow. And the places you've seen and the things you've seen, my gosh. And then, COVID, just touching on COVID briefly. I know you could go on for days with COVID, but how did that affect the coroner's office? There are more caseload numbers, deaths for that period of time. I wasn't afraid of COVID. I really shouldn't say, to be honest with you, I got COVID myself. I woke up one morning, my temperature was like 100 and whatever. And I felt like I had the flu. So I took the test, and sure enough, I had it. And then I had to stay home and work from home on laptops and stuff. But until I could go out to the public again. Okay. But was there a controversy about in terms of cause of death? And a lot of people say they were saying it was COVID because they could get the insurance money and things along those lines. Well, I'm not a doctor, but I kind of wonder sometimes why it was put on a person with an elderly person, had a health history as long as your arm, and were they tested for COVID? I don't know. But then on the bottom line was COVID. Okay. And I think the money that was floating around during that time, I don't get into politics. I don't play politics, but when the federal government would send a check to help pay for a funeral, was because it's COVID? Mm-hmm. I don't think so. I mean, it's not right. But anyway, I didn't make that decision. No, I appreciate your opinion on that too. Now, let's say, I was mentioning earlier, you were sheriff from November 26, 1984 to March 20th, 1985. Do you have any mementos of any little thing or a little Sheriff Scott badge or anything? No. The sheriff, and at that time, the head of facilities management had old sheriff started to made up a plaque for me, which is nice. I love it. It's home. We just had Jim Winters retire, and coming by to visit him was Andy Sullivan, and of course we got on the subject of Roger Scott. You mentioned Roger earlier, just a god in my book. Not only what he did professionally, but what he did with his family as well. But tell us about working with Roger Scott, and then somebody like Andy Sullivan come along and replace him. I mean, you can't get too much better people than that. I agree. Roger was number one in my book, and Andy is 1.5. Yeah, he's right up there with Andy or with Roger. And I have utmost respect for Andy for what he does. His plate's very full, but he's doing a fine job. Now, I was doing some research for this, and I came across this, Denny. This is from 2016, but it's the coroner's report that you put together, and I realized how much paperwork is involved with your job here. But you say here, my goal at coroner of DeKalb County is to provide citizens with the most professional death investigations regarding the cause and manner of death in a case where the coroner has responsibility. At the same time, this accomplishment is with the most cost-effective method possible. Now, tell us about that. Why do you bring that up in the opening here? Because I'm very conservative. I like to,
Well, many of us are, and we like that. The cost effective.
And make every dollar count. That's the way I did. I was able to use board certified forensic pathologist on the majority of the autopsy that we did. I always stop when I did tours of stuff for the office, for nursing students and things of that nature. I told the students, if you want to make really, really good money, become a board certified forensic pathologist. There's a shortage of them in the United States. And today, if you graduate with all your medical training, you can make a lot of money. I've been very, very fortunate. I have a number of friends who are board certified forensic pathologists. I've used the one, she retired out of Cook County now for a number of years. And she was my main pathologist. But I had 3 other backup people that would do it for me also if she was on vacation or not available. And everybody can't do that. If you go downstate Illinois, they have to transport the body for sometimes 100 miles to get an autopsy.
Is that right?
Yes,
wow.
There's no coverage anywhere. But we are very fortunate here in DeKalb to have those resources available to us. I always used to attend the American Academy of Forensic Science. That's probably one of the best academies there is in the country. And I made a lot of contacts through those people. And I can call on them. I could have called on them anytime I wanted to for advice. And sometimes the services were free for me. There has been a number of homicide cases where I had a forensic anthropologist out of University of Indiana, and she did her work for me for nothing. So I can't, you can't beat that.
No, you can't. We're talking to Denny Miller, longtime coroner for DeKalb County. Now, it's interesting in this report, types of deaths that must be reported to the coroner's office. And you would section police officers, hospital, funeral directors, physicians, embalmers, ambulance attendants, vital statistics registrars, and hospital organizations. So they're all legally required to report this to the coroner's office.
They are. If they report it, yes, they are. They are legally supposed to report any death to the coroner's office.
Now, in the stats here, unfortunately, I lost my grandmother to a hip. She broke her hip and then died not shortly after. It says all hip fractures, if the patient dies within 1 year or 1 month, will be in the coroner's case, and the coroner must be notified.
That's correct.
Now, why is that?
That came from Springfield, of course. That's still a state law. Why 13 months? I don't know. I mean, I guess they're afraid that if a person maybe tripped and fell and broke a hip, and they formed a blood clot and they traveled up and took their life, it'd be an accidental death, not a natural death. Or if they slipped on a merchant's store or whatever, it's not an accidental death,
right?
Or it's not a natural death; it's an accidental death. If they trip and fall, going out the sidewalk, whatever.
All right, very good. Now it's all broken down here. Matter of fact, I'm looking at the year 2016 in DeKalb County. We lost 550 souls here, but it's all broken down. You know, I always hear about insurance agencies and statisticians putting this stuff together, but it's all broken down. For instance, the first couple heart-related deaths, 180, then it's broken down male, female, which more male than female. But then cancer, failure to thrive. I was wondering about that, Denny. What is that? 34 people passed away in 2016. Failure to thrive.
Those are deaths that the physician will usually sign out. Usually a very old individual would die. They just gave up.
And we hear they fell asleep and died in their sleep, right?
Correct.
All right, very good. And then it's broken down even more. Kidney failure, Parkinson's disease, diabetes, a lot of ones we would expect, bowel obstruction, just some interesting ones. We mentioned the hip fracture. But it's all broken down, and these are important things these stats have to be kept, don't they?
Yes, they do. They should be kept anyway.
Okay, very interesting.
I can't speak for other counties, but...
So those are all natural deaths, and then you have motor vehicle deaths. You had 5 by automobile mishap, train versus car 1, coronary conclusion. And what is that, paralegal due to motorcycle accident? Okay. And then the coroner, a lawnmower accident as well. Now, we used to do the suicide prevention show on WLBK, and there was a story where a guy is going like 100 miles an hour and drives into a tree with nothing else around. Is that suicide? Now, we said, he had suicidal tendencies, and that But you as a coroner, how would you write that up per se? And I know it's an extenuating circumstance.
It all depends. Again, you could be behind a car driving 100 miles an hour and die of a heart attack. Now, is it natural death? That's why it's very important to do autopsy the drivers of motor vehicle collisions.
Okay.
If a person has a blocked artery, they're probably dead before you get to treat.
Yeah.
In all honesty, so it'd be an accidental death. If the person look when you investigate a motor vehicle death, if the person is left at the scene, especially the driver, the position of the feet. Is it on the gas pedal? Is it on the brake pedal? Are there yaw marks in the roadway? Things of that nature.
Wow, that's fascinating. And then now non-motor vehicle deaths in 2016 in DeKalb County, 25. I see alcohol here. I see heroin mentioned numerous times. I see fentanyl mentioned as well. That's a big problem. It's still a problem, isn't it, Denny?
Still a problem. Those are probably very low numbers compared to today, but yes, they are low numbers.
Yeah, so very sad to hear that too. And then, so again, you have accidental deaths, and then we have a suicidal deaths. Again, I mentioned that we do the suicide prevention show here on WLBK. We did for years, and hearing about so many different reasons and why people think it's a selfish thing, but really they're not, because they want to relieve the people the burden they think of themselves. But is that harder for you, Denny, to investigate a suicide death?
It is, because nobody wants to lose a loved one, especially to suicide. My biggest, not problem, but my biggest concern was notifying families of the death of the child, especially. Mm-hmm. That was tough. Parents aren't supposed to are not supposed to bury their children. Children are supposed to bury their parents.
Very well put there. And then homicidal deaths we have too. Well, we don't have to get into specifics of that, but it's fascinating to see it all broken down like this, Denny. And we know that insurance companies go by this stuff here, but
Sure.
But you have to accumulate all these numbers, don't you?
Yes, we do.
Very impressive. We're talking to Denny Miller about various issues concerning that being coroner for over 40 years. Now let's lighten things up a little bit here. Tell us about growing up. You mentioned growing up. Who was your biggest influence? Who influenced Denny Miller when I was a kid?
Probably my parents. They taught us to respect people, to work hard, and to treat people with respect and dignity.
And were you an athlete, or what kind of kid were you?
I played a little bit of basketball in high school, track and field, stuff like that, but not wholeheartedly.
Okay.
I'd rather go to work than do that stuff. But anyway, yeah.
Now, when I was going to do this interview, I Googled top 10 TV shows about coroners, and I found an interesting thing that you knew already, I'm sure, Denny. Like, for instance, the one I like, Quincy, back in the day.
Jack Klugman.
Jack Klugman. He's a medical examiner, right? Now, tell us about how a medical examiner is different than a coroner. Or I can tell you, but I have it right here.
A medical examiner is normally a doctor. Okay, like if you travel up to Wisconsin, some counties have medical examiners, some counties have coroners. It's not really a defined office.
Okay.
In Illinois, there's only one medical examiner in the state. That's Dr. Cook County. She's out of Cook County. The other 101 counties, it's a coroner system. Majority of those coroners are elected. There's maybe only a handful that are appointed by the county board chair. There's probably 4 or 5 who are both sheriff and coroner. Those are downstate Illinois.
Is that right?
Yes, and those are friends of mine, but they hate it. They hate being coroner.
I can't imagine being. Well, you were for several months, yeah.
Well, but if something happens in your jail, what are you going to do?
Right.
Okay. The why that is in mostly small counties, population. You have a county's population of 15 or 18 or 15,000 people or 20,000 people. You can't justify both offices. Should the office of coroner be regionalized? I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. I think larger counties, it'd be difficult. Smaller counties like downstate Illinois, I don't see the reason why not. Mm-hmm. One person can handle 3-4 counties.
Yeah. GPS very interesting. That's very interesting. So, and then also I learned about, well, let's go through some of these if you don't mind, because, Quincy, I don't know if you remember Second City Television at all, Denny, but they did a bit where Quincy was investigating Roadrunner's death from Wile E. Coyote's death from Roadrunner, and they said, he got run over by a steamroller, but that didn't kill him. And then he held a stick of dynamite and blew up, but that didn't kill him either. But it's good that you can make, right? I mean, you almost have to, right? Mentally,
you have to
get through what you do.
You have to put a little humor into it. Now, not disrespectful, but a little bit of humor into it.
All right, so Quincy was number one. Let's see if you know any of these. I didn't know any of these. Body of proof. A medical examiner uses her forensic skills to help solve crimes after she's injured in a hit and run accident. But now we have CSI, and I know I don't watch those shows, but I know a lot of people that do. And you would have been a lot more popular 20 years ago.
There's a lot of Hollywood, though, I got to say about that. There's a lot of Hollywood.
Crossing Jordan, a medical examiner works in afterlife, exploring the details of death and the human condition. Now, have you been fascinated by that? I recently watched a movie called Flatliners, where people purposely would kill themselves momentarily to see what the afterlife was like. But have you thought about the afterlife a lot, Denny?
Not really, no. I mean, I'm a Christian, go to our local Catholic church on there, very strong in that, but just what is what's going to be.
I like that. All right, let's do a couple more. Bones. A team of forensic anthropologists solve crimes by examining skeletal remains, often uncovering hidden truths about the deceased. And then this one I love, Denny. It's something called Coroner. A new coroner investigates deaths, often dealing with complex personal and professional relationships. And you can relate to that, right? Because people say, oh, it's a show about a coroner, but your life has been fascinating, hasn't it, sir?
It's been challenging. We've been blessed. You know, Jill and I have been blessed with 3 wonderful kids, and I feel that we all respect life 110%.
And do you look at life differently doing what you do?
I do. I really do. I used to work for a guy, and he said, "Stop and smell the roses." Now think about that. You know, it could be, you think you have it rough and either a job or whatever it is, but just think about there's other people in this world who are less off than what you are.
Yeah.
So.
My favorite quote, which I thought was from the Bible, was actually from Helen Keller, and she said, "I felt sorry for myself because I had no shoes, and then I met a man who had no feet." So we all think we have problems, don't we? And then you meet somebody that your problems are pale in comparison.
So that's correct.
And then the last one I want to do is the autopsy of Jane Doe. A father and son coroner team investigate the death of a mysterious woman. I think I would watch that. Or do you want any part of that now? Are you done with anything like that? You just want to be...
It still interests me. I keep in touch with a lot of people, coroner friends of mine, and we talk about different things and cases that they're working on. I'll give them suggestions and things of that nature, and they appreciate it.
And not to blow smoke, as they say, but I just want to read this because I came across this Jeff Kiker on his Facebook page. For those of you who don't know, Denny Miller and the decades of selfless service he's given to the people of DeKalb County, and then he had a nice little bio about you. So, I mean, you've touched a lot of people through the years. It must be nice to get recognition like that.
It is nice.
I know you don't seek that.
I don't seek it, no, but it's nice to know that people are thinking of me once in a while.
And tell us about Linda Belser. Now she took over for you as she won the next election, and I'm sure you worked with her. And tell us about Linda. What did you tell her? And what did Mr. Sullivan tell you when you started this job?
Mr. Sullivan told me different things, how to treat people, and what to look for in different cases, things of that nature. I have tried to pass it on to the current coroner. What's going on now? I don't know. I can't tell you because I don't know.
Sure.
Last time I talked to her was December 2nd.
And did you modernize? I mean, I'm guessing things from the 80s till now were a lot different in terms of the coroner's office.
Well, it really hasn't changed.
It hasn't?
It hasn't changed. The county board back in the late 70s, early 80s, built the current public safety building. And at that time, they put a morgue in the basement, which was great. Is it outdated? Sure it is. Do we need a new one? It'd be nice, but it's not a free thing. The county's strapped for funds, like they hear all the time. The ideal time to update the morgue was when they built the new county jail to the east of the current building. But they said they had no funds, so we didn't do it.
Is that right? So is that where the morgue is? I didn't know the morgue is over there.
The morgue's downstairs in the lower level.
All right, that's great to know, boy. And then wrapping things up here now. Tell us about life in Sandwich now. How are things with you and your family? You settled down now? Can you have a real semblance of a normal life now?
Well, I don't get any phone calls at 2 a.m, which I appreciate it. But the life is good. We're planning some trips, and my wife, Jill, and I are going to do some more traveling here this next month.
Where are you off to? Or do you know yet?
We're going to take an Alaskan cruise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that always looks great.
I hope so.
Well, you certainly deserve that. That's for sure. And what about the kids? You know, one of my favorite questions on the radio was nature versus nurture. A lot of parents, and then the kids take over the job for their parents. Your kids at all interested in doing what you were doing?
At one time, my 2 boys thought they'd be interested to take over. Then I thought to myself, you don't really want this. You can make a lot more money out in the general public than you can with the coroner's office. Our oldest son is a captain for United Airlines. He's doing well.
Great.
Our youngest son works for a waste management company, root disposal, and our daughter is a physical therapist.
Oh, great.
So,
boy, 3 solid jobs there.
Yes, they are. We're very proud of all 3 of them.
And do you, now grandkids, how old are the grandkids?
3 little grandkids.
Okay.
One's 4. Our granddaughter just turned 2, and our youngest grandson's going to turn 2 next month.
Do you anticipate them, whatever years now, asking Grandpa about what he used to do for a living? And
Probably so.
How are you going to handle that one?
It all depends.
It's a great chance for a great life lesson, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It really is. It all depends how old they are when they ask a question. And I explained to younger kids when I was in office that I work with people who have died to see what they died from. Depends on the age group, of course, but and they understood that. So
that's great. Yeah. Well, listen, we wish you all the best. We want to thank you so much for taking time to talk to us this morning, and we're so intrigued by what you do. And I want to be very careful when I talk to you about not being insensitive, but I also realize that for you to do what you've done for so long, you have to have a special mindset, don't you, Denny? Or else you would have gotten out of it 20 years ago.
Correct. I try to. Like I said before, I try to treat people with dignity and respect. And I understand their wishes, and I try to get my wishes crossed over to them.
Is there a little catchphrase we can get from you, or other than I like the one, just treat people with dignity and respect?
That's just I just made up. I had on my stationery where I used to have on the bottom end of the stationery, care of the deceased and concern for the living.
Oh, very good.
So, yeah.
Enough said. Well, Denny, again, thank you so much for being part of our podcast. Denny Miller has been our guest, longtime coroner here in DeKalb, and of course, taking care of the emergencies in our area as well. But Denny, we thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your retirement now.
Well, thank you. Thank you for bringing me on.
That's our podcast number 3, TD Ryan Unleashed. Our podcast number 13, TD Ryan Unleashed. And you heard it all live.
TD Ryan Unleashed is brought to you by Scott Diamond, your State Farm insurance agent. Pizza Villa in DeKalb, Elder Care Services of DeKalb County, The Junction Eating Place in DeKalb, and my insurance guy Mike DeVito in Sycamore.